Well, hey y'all, it's Shaniqua with I Got Tea. Time to educate America. Now, buckle in because this one's alright. It's long, it's layered, but by the end, you'll understand exactly what's happening inside of our government and, what power you still have. But before we start, real quick, hit that like, tap subscribe, and drop a comment below because engagement is how these platforms decide what lives or dies in the feed. Okay, take a deep breath, get your cup of tea in hand, and grab your copy of your Constitution because we're about to talk about what happens when all three branches of government start working for one side and the Constitution becomes the last adult in the room. All right, let's set the scene. You have a Congress that looks the other way. You have courts that defer instead of decide. And you have executive orders flying like royal decrees. You see, history's seen this movie before. Civil War, Depression, Watergate, and each time the system bent, and each time the paper somehow held. The difference now? We're in the digital chapter. So let's start with what this paper actually says about power gone wrong. Let's turn to Article 3. Let's go. Now tap your neighbor and say, neighbor.
Neighbor.
We're about to talk about treason. Okay? Because everybody loves that word. But it's the hardest charge in the book. The clause defines it as levying war against the U.S. or adhering to their enemies, giving them aid and comfort. That's it. In this case, Bowman versus whoever that name is, back in 1807, Chief Justice John Marshall said even planning a rebellion didn't count unless it turned into actual war. Aaron Burr's wild scheme to start a new country? Not treason. Then there's Kramer versus the United States back in 1945, when a man fed a Nazi spy during World War II. And the court ruled that without proof those cheeseburgers helped Germany, it wasn't treason. 2 witnesses, open act, clear intent. That's the standard. And while we've had a very scary time with digital sabotage, algorithmic manipulation, and foreign meddling, while they're real threats, they actually don't meet that 18th century definition. And the founders wrote it narrow so presidents couldn't weaponize it against critics. Which means treason won't save us here. We need the clauses written for crisis, not cannon fire. It's not...
Happy quiet.
Happy Domestic Violence Awareness Month? Okay, so don't get discouraged because we have another word we can talk about, and that is impeachment. If treason's too tight a box, impeachment is the release valve. You see, the House accuses, the Senate judges, and it covers treason, bribery, or other high crimes and misdemeanors. Now, that last phrase means abuse of power, not speeding tickets. You see, Nixon tried to weaponize federal agencies, and that's impeachable. Clinton lied under oath. That was impeachable. And the Orange Man sought foreign favors for political gain, and that really was impeachable. Now, if a president reroutes money Congress never approved or governs solely by executive order, oh yeah, that's grounds for impeachment. But impeachment only works when Congress remembers it's supposed to have a spine and a pair of balls. Now, I told you, we've kind of been here before. Y'all remember that thing called the Civil War? All right, so check it. What happens when Congress won't act and the courts pretend they can't? Well, that question really isn't new, and it's why the 14th Amendment exists. Okay, what's the 14th Amendment? I'm glad you asked. It's the one for insurrection and disqualification. So, after the Civil War, lawmakers wrote a new rule. Anyone who swore an oath to the Constitution and then joined or aided a rebellion can't hold office again unless Congress forgives them. Now, in Griffin's case, in 1869, a Virginia judge who served the Confederacy tried to return to the bench. The court said nope. Section 3, barred automatically. No conviction needed. So, jump to the Orange Man versus Anderson back in 2024. The Supreme Court ruled states can't use Section 3 to block federal candidates. Only Congress can set the process. So the tool's still there. It's just locked behind Congress's door. And they wouldn't know that because they barely go to work. Okay, now apply that to today's world. Rebellion isn't just bayonets. It can be digital manipulation, foreign money, and, coordinated sabotage of elections. Congress could revive Section 3 with a law defining modern insurrection to include cyber or database attacks on democracy. So think of it as a Civil War patch waiting for a cyber security update. And it's needed. Now, you would think, not every fix needs new ink. Some of the oldest amendments are still alive and kicking, and you just have to know where to find them. You got your textbooks open? Get ready to turn to the amendments that are still protecting you. All right. Start with the First Amendment, speech, press, and protest. When you call out corruption online or march in the streets, that's protected expression, not terrorism. See, the 5th and 14th Amendments guarantee due process and equal protection. They're why an arbitrary arrest or discriminatory law can still be challenged in court today. Ask the orange one. Now you also have the 10th Amendment, which gives states their own armor to shield citizens from federal overreach. That's why state attorneys generals can sue Washington and, sometimes win. And here comes my favorite one, the 25th Amendment. Let's look at Section 4, because it lets a vice president and a majority of the cabinet remove a president who's unfit or defiant. It's a constitutional emergency exit few want to touch, but it's there. I know the man using it like it's toilet paper, but these aren't decorations. They are active circuits in the machine. And when someone says the Constitution's dead, remind them that it still breathes through cases filed every day in the courtrooms across this country. Now, if you're still listening, go ahead and hit share. Someone in your circle needs this civics lesson. Now, this brings us to the biggest mess that we're actually in, something that rarely ever happens. And that's when all 3 branches are captured. So what do we do if every branch is compromised? You see, the framers actually anticipated that one too. They split power so no one group could hold it all. States can sue and pass protective laws. Lower courts can issue injunctions that stall, illegal actions. And so far, it's been working. Thank y'all. You're literally our last defense here. Inspectors generals can, document fraud whenever their bosses don't want to see it, which is why we fired them. And the public record, our voices, our votes, and our cameras, they build the receipts for future accountability. Right, Prisker? So, it's messy and it's slow, but that friction is how democracy grips the road. We don't have to lose it. We just have to use it. Now let's talk about a document I don't have, but our most patriotic are privy to, and that is the military oath and the UCMJ Article 92. Yeah, so let's talk about that institution that people whisper about when things get bad. The military. Every service member swears to support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. Notice what's missing? No mention of a person or a party. You see, that oath is limited by law. They must obey only lawful orders. And under Article 92 of the Uniform Code of Military Justice, obeying a manifestly unlawful order is in itself a crime. Orders to target civilians, interfere with elections, or use troops as political weapons are illegal on their face. killing them could land a soldier in Leavenworth. And add to that the Posse Comitatus Act of 1878, which bars using the military for domestic law enforcement without Congress's approval, and the Insurrection Act, which can only be invoked for real rebellion and is subject to court review. Now, in practice, lawful refusal is quiet. Ask for a written order, request a legal review, delay execution, or resign. That's fidelity to the Constitution, not defiance of it. I know we are so tired of hearing this word, but we have got to talk about why this moment is unprecedented. You see, our fathers never imagined cryptocurrency, deep fakes, or bot farms masquerading as citizens. The Civil War amendments handled rifles and runaways. Ours must handle code and clouds. So, the next constitutional update will need digital integrity rules, judicial ethic laws, and limits on unchecked executive power. Every generation rewrites the manual to fit its machinery. And it's time we did it too. Now, you don't just have to wait for government. Let's talk about your civic action plan. Because here's what ordinary people can do. Again, document everything. Receipts become history. And support the watchdogs. Brennan Center, ACLU, Protect Democracy. We also got the ETA and SMART. Now, I also need you to demand paper ballots and public audits. Push for ethics and term limits for justices. And stay peaceful, visible, and lawful. You see, the Constitution is not self-executing. It runs on participation. And it's about time some of y'all got off your ass and did that. Now, an additional thing you can do is call your congressman. Because if Mike Johnson can give the House of Representatives a paid vacation, it is time that you pressure your congressman into giving him a permanent one. They need to put in a vote of no confidence and clear out the House. To the left, to the left. And that's the T. Straight, hot, and constitutional. So, all right, y'all. This has been another episode of I Got Tea. Time to educate America, because somebody's got to do it. And if you've learned anything today, like, follow, leave a comment, and share this episode. That's how truth, travels through algorithms. And also, drop your questions. What part of the Constitution do you want me to unpack next? And remember, the oath every official swears is the same one you inherit as a citizen: to defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. It's been an honor talking to you today. I'm Shaniqua, and this is your reminder: stay informed, stay loud, stay lawful. Until next time, keep your eyes open, receipts at the ready, and your voice steady. We out. But don't forget to keep your tea hot and your integrity hotter.